Now, some of you might prefer to use the head collar option for your dog, and that's where we recommend the Black Dog Halter Mate. I use that one in particular over your other styles because this one actually the lead attaches behind the head and it has a limited slip, so that we can still use all our same training techniques and communication on the head collar, as opposed to the regular head collars that you tend to pick up in most of your pet shops where the lead attaches underneath the dog's chin. With those ones, you don't have that pressure release communication, so we're losing that communication out of our training, which is going to inhibit our training. Plus, when we're using the lead, we're actually turning and pulling the dog's neck around. If you needed to get that dog's attention, for example, if you wanted to give them a quick pop on the lead to get their attention, you're pop with their neck, which isn't ideal and can cause injury. So the Halter Mate is a much safer option, as well as being a much more effective option. People that may particularly want to use the head collar option would be especially if you have any arm, shoulder injuries, making it hard for you to hold your dog on the lead, or if you've got a really large dog and their size and weight and strength outweighs the person that's going to be on the end of the lead, then again I would recommend the head collar over the slip lead, because the head collar is going to give you much more control when you've got control of the dog's full head. Plus, even if the dog does go to lunge or pull, with the head collar, they're not able to pull or lunge with anywhere near the amount of strength that they can pull or lunge when they're on the slip lead or a flat collar or a harness. So the head collar is also a good option for those that maybe couldn't be bothered doing walking training, maybe you're not very consistent with it and that's holding up your progress on a slip lead. With the head collar, it does also provide you a little bit of a cheat. It will instantly give you more control than you will have on the slip lead. So if you're a bit short on time, or if you know yourself you're not really going to put the repetition and the consistency needed to fully train the dog to walk beautifully on the lead, then again the head collar would be a good option for you. Because realistically, I find a lot of clients, while their dog could be trained perfectly on the slip lead, it's going to require a lot more repetition and consistency and patience. So this will help cut out a little bit of that. And if your dog is still pulling a little bit on the lead here or there, the dog isn't choking themselves on the slip lead or a collar, and as opposed to a harness, even if you're using this in a completely untrained dog, I'd rather that dog pulling on the head collar than pulling on the harness, because the advantage it's going to give you is that on the head collar, the dog won't have anywhere near as much strength to pull you on the head collar as they do when they're pulling you on the harness. Plus, if your dog is a little bit reactive on the harness, you've got zilch control of that dog, and that reactivity is just going to continue getting worse and worse. Whereas if you're using the head collar, you're going to be able to pull that dog up and stop that reactivity. Even if your training isn't perfect, you're going to have a lot better control, and the dog's going to be a lot more manageable for you. So obviously we recommend the training side of things, but we know life happens and that's not always possible for everybody. So the head collar will make a good management tool as well as a training tool, depending on which option you choose to take. So let's have a look at how we put on the Black Dog Halter Mate. First of all, with your collar part, so the bit that goes around the dog's neck is going to be the coloured bit. So it's usually going to be red or pink or green or purple or blue. And you're going to first of all adjust that and fit that around the dog's neck so it's high up behind their ears. It shouldn't hang loose like a normal collar. It should be quite firm. So you're just going to fit that first. So we'll get that on the dog and then we'll have a look at how we set the length of our nose strap once we've got the collar on the dog. So when we're putting on our head collar, I would suggest that first of all you clip your lead to the dog's normal collar, and that way you can put your, you can put your foot on the lead so that you don't end up having to chase the dog around the house while you're trying to clip this on. So we'll pop our foot on the lead. You see there she's she's seeing the head collar going, oh, I don't know if I want to put that on. So the lead there is just stopping her from running away to make life a bit easier. Now, with our coloured part, the red part that's going to go on like a collar, I would suggest that you come under the chin and then we clip that on. Now it should be positioned high up behind the dog's ears. It shouldn't be loose enough that it's fitting down where a normal collar would fit, and that should be pretty firm there. Now once you've clipped that on, you will have this black loop will probably be at the side of the dog. So just wriggle that around because you want that black loop between your dog's ears. Once you've got that black loop, locate your nose buckle and your nose strap. Now, I would suggest that you hold both of them, and you can see that gives me a little triangle here, and that way you know that you're going to put it on in the right way. Now with our nose strap, so still holding your buckle with this hand, our other hand has our nose strap, we're going to go behind the dog's ear, under their chin, over their nose, back under, and then we come in behind that dog's other ear and we clip. And then our lead is going to go up here. So if we have a closer look behind her head here, you can see when that pulls tight, there's quite a gap there. So that indicates to me that I just need to make the nose strap a little bit longer, because I'd really like those two pieces to maybe only be about 2 centimetres apart. If they're too far apart, probably don't have enough room in the nose strap around the dog's mouth there. So all I'm going to do, if you do need to refit that, just unstrap that. Again, I've got my foot on the dog's lead, so that makes it easy. We'll just put a little bit more length in that. Locate your nose buckle, got your triangle. Let's feed our nose strap around again, clip in, let's have a look. Still probably a little bit too much space, so we'll make that a little bit bigger again. Got our nose buckle, under, over the nose, back under the chin, clip it in. There we go, and that's looking a bit better. That's a better space to have, and that'll give the dog a more comfortable fit around the nose there. So when it pulls tight, these two pieces should not touch. So you want them about 1 to 2 centimetres apart. If they're too far apart, you just need to loosen your nose strap. If these are touching, you need to tighten your nose strap. So if you have a look underneath the dog's chin, you should have a figure 8 cross there. And then we will get our lead, and our lead clips on there. So we've got our pressure and we've got our release. So as long as the dog's not doing anything wrong, you want to keep that lead relaxed so that there's no pressure on the head collar. But then we've got our pressure if we need an emergency sit, or pressure for any leash communication where it tightens, and then it'll release again, tighten and release. But the pressure's coming through the dog's nose under their chin as opposed to on their throat, like a slip lead or a collar would do. And also just gives you a lot more control, especially if you've got a really big, strong dog. When you've got control of their whole head, you're going to be able to communicate with that dog a lot more effectively and get that results in your training, especially if you've got a dog that tends to outweigh the person on the end of that lead. So to take the head collar off, I would suggest that you do the reverse, just clip your lead onto the dog's normal collar, and that way it'll stop them from sort of running off straight away when you take it off. So locate your nose buckle, unclip your nose buckle, they'll usually just open up, and then unclip your collar part. Good girl, hey? Good job.